The greatest mystery of history isn't hidden in a book, it's hidden in a surname. The surname you carry right now wasn't passed down to you, it was stolen from you. And the 13 families who did this are still living among us today. Have you ever wondered why certain questions are never asked? Why certain books don't exist? Why certain people suddenly went mad? Because history itself is a fiction, and we are nothing but actors in that fiction. Its authors didn't bury their names in history. They buried them in your blood. Now go back to 1816. People from every corner of the world experienced the same thing all at once. Summer never came. Crops rotted. Animals perished. Millions died of starvation. History books called it the ashes of Mount Tambora and moved on. But do you really think that's all there was to it? The testimonies of the people who lived through those years were collected, burned, and buried in archives for centuries. Because those people had seen something else, and they knew. Something unnatural in the sky. Traces of structures that couldn't have been built in 100 years, lost overnight. And evidence that there was a hand behind this catastrophe. That hand belonged to one of the 13 families. And that family didn't just cover up this chapter of history, they rewrote it. Now let me ask you something. Who built those magnificent buildings in the great cities of Europe and America in the early 1800s? Official history says, workers. It says, immigrants. It says, years of labor. But have you ever stopped to think, there were no cranes back then, no steel frames, no concrete technology, and yet, who built those massive domes, those mile-long colonnades, those structures that leave today's architects scratching their heads? What were those strange structures near Niagara Falls, really? Why did the same architectural language appear simultaneously, in the same century, on continents that were supposedly never in contact? And why were the majority of these structures demolished during the modernization wave of the late 1800s, replaced with entirely different buildings? The answer is the rebranding. The greatest skill of the 13 families wasn't war. It wasn't plague. Their greatest skill was erasing what existed and replacing it with their own story. The energy chambers of that great civilization known as Tartaria, the structures that generated free energy, they are still sitting right beneath the places you visit today as tourist waterfalls. But when you go there, you see a plaque. On that plaque is a name donated by one of these families. And you don't know that name is just a label slapped over the face of history. Let's go a little deeper. Now let's talk about your surname. In medieval Europe, in the Ottoman Empire, in Russia, in America, all around the world, starting in the mid-1800s, states began doing something. They gave people surnames. For the census, they said. For taxes, they said. But is it a coincidence that this mandatory surname system was introduced at exactly the same time the 13 families were reaching the peak of their control over banks and governments? I don't think so. This system, designed to sever ancestral names, tribal bonds, and bloodlines, cut you off from who you truly are. You were no longer an heir of Tartaria. You were a tax number. And the owner of that number was the system built by those 13 families. So who are these families? You won't find them in history books, because they wrote those books. But their traces remain. The fact that the Rothschilds learned the outcome of the Battle of Waterloo in 1815 before it reached the stock market, and seized the entire British economy as a result, is a truth admitted even in their own documents. How the Rockefellers financed medical schools and discarded centuries of European healing tradition as pseudoscience is a subject researchers have been studying for decades. These names have always darkened the world and driven it into the unknown. It's time to open your eyes and pay attention. But these weren't merely economic operations. They were small cogs in a multi-layered operation designed to erase the memory of an entire civilization. And the darkest dimension of this operation was the silencing of witnesses. In the mid-1800s, asylum construction exploded across Europe and America. Historians explain this as the modernization of societies. But look at who was being committed to those asylums. People who spoke of mud layers beneath demolished cities. People who saw strange lights in the sky. People who documented how ancestral lands were seized. The diagnosis of madness worked with remarkable convenience in that era. When a person knew something dangerous, the cleanest way to silence them was to declare them insane. And the ones who built, funded, and legislated that system were the lawyers, bankers, and politicians of those 13 families. And as I said, everyone was a pawn working for them. But we can change that. Have you ever wondered what happened to books written before 1800? 90% of the world's great libraries are today locked in inaccessible archives. No one knows what lies in the Vatican's sealed sections. Many historians now accept that the Library of Alexandria wasn't destroyed in a single fire. The real destruction happened through a systematic collection operation. But who did this? Who decided which books would be preserved and which would be destroyed? The answer leads back, again, to those bloodlines. Because what determined which version of history survived wasn't weapons, it was capital. And the oldest weapon of these 13 families has always been capital. And behind closed doors, they are still governing the world. Now let me tell you about those bloodlines. Researchers who have examined the genealogies of European royal families found a recurring pattern in the branches of that tree reaching back centuries. The same bloodlines appear under different names, in different countries, on different thrones. A Habsburg, a Windsor, a Merovingian, the names change, but the bloodline remains constant. And some of the oldest branches of this bloodline trace back to the region known today as Tatarstan, the very heartland of what is considered Tartaria. Is this a coincidence? Or do these families actually descend from the very civilization they sought to destroy? Or was the Great Reset operation actually a war of inheritance, and the side that won was the side that rewrote history? My own personal belief is that these 13 families did not come from Tartaria. They may even be a hybrid race, perhaps of extraterrestrial origin. Of course, this is just my own opinion. Here I need to stop and ask you this. If all of this information is complete nonsense, if it really is just conspiracy theory, then why are academics who research these subjects being removed from universities? Why do certain archives remain closed under the justification of national security? Why do YouTube and social media platforms apply censorship, in a strangely vague way, to searches containing certain historical terms? Forbidden knowledge is dangerous knowledge. And what is dangerous is usually what is true. In my view, this is not a conspiracy theory. And because they control the world, they control everything, including social media. Whenever an event doesn't serve their interests, they have it censored. While you watch this video, people all around the world are asking the same questions. They're looking at their surnames. They're researching the mud layers beneath their cities. They're questioning why their great-grandparents were forced to change their names. And slowly, one by one, the pieces of that great puzzle are beginning to come together. It is claimed that these 13 families erased history, but history can never truly be erased. Because that blood runs in you too. That legacy is yours as well. And what you have forgotten will one day be remembered. And as I said, history can never be erased. They can keep believing they are the masters of this world, but I truly believe that very soon, what will happen to them and everyone who thinks like them will become clear. And you, and we will become one, and we will keep exposing the truth. The truth can never be hidden. Sooner or later, it always comes out.